I have to do my best to make time to type and write and record my views um, in the hopes that someone will follow up who has the authority and ability to secure documents and fact check and investigate further from my leads. I live in poverty row. I have no income to work with. But I can't do everything, and I have carpal tunnels, which slows me down significantly. And I'm expecting a delivery today, so I'm pressed for time. After which I'll probably sit in at the clubhouse, all of which is consuming. I have my routines, but the overriding importance of what's going on resembles and reminds me of Northwoods. Operation Northwoods was a plan to stage a false flag from Cuba so they could invade, and it would involve an attack on American citizens and American people. And President Kennedy rejected it, of course. He was outraged by it. But the people who took charge of the White House after they murdered him have never had any scruples about eliminating American people, innocent American people. And you have to ask yourself, is there loyalty for them? Why would they be so unscrupulous? So there are things we don't discuss and we don't ask, but which we should discuss and ask about what happened to President Kennedy. And police interest tends to reinforce the killers. There's a few things that we learned about the death of Kennedy from the Texas school book. Nobody who has actually lost someone who they loved is free from bearing the weight of the terrible insult that has been inflicted on our entire generation by the Beatles in the staging of Lennon's assassination so that they could cover up what they really did in their involvement in the murder of JFK. And as we've seen in recent months, with this development, they have assassinated 3 more Kennedys to warn the Kennedys not to allow my words about what is going on to reach the public. It's humiliating, and they're acting locally, but they're thinking globally. From the script, we learn that it could only have been them. The dominant feature of their entire rigmarole is something they call 2 versions. It's a peasant army who watch the streets, who contract as pimps and then claim to be Muhammad Ali's scholars watching the cheaters. When COVID first happened, I stated that I felt that American manhood was abandoning their ex-girlfriends. I still feel that way. The rednecks, the Trumpers, and even the left are lying for and covering the whole thing up for the Beatles, just as they lied for and covered up Mount Desert Island for the Beatles. The existence of such a heartless movement goes back to the notorious days in the spring of 1964 when the Beatles landed on the coattails of the man they assassinated, bringing power and cheer. What we see in the music of Beatles is a mind at war with itself. They scream and rage and rant and glee about murdering people. Bang, bang, shoot, shoot, Maxwell's silver hammer. And then say, oh, darling, I will never do you any harm. Man, I was cruel. I beat her. Run for your life if you can, little girl. And then all of this soothsay about peace and stuff, so they could gnarl up the mind. And then they would be in control of psychiatry. Operation Helter Skelter bore resemblance to nothing so much as Operation Northwoods. It was fake. They were the only people who committed rape. The girl who they would say claimed they were defending by the AIDS attack was still a virgin. The woman who they say was wrong by me, when she seduced me, already had lost her virginity. To Nicholas. And that's important because Nicholas is the name of the White Russian leader, Tsar Nicholas. And what we see in the White Russian community is they are the roots of Adolf Hitler. And they are also the roots of what happened in Dallas, the Morin shift. He was White Russian. Nabokov, who scripted the Texas School Book together with the Beatles. I was the shadow of the wax-winged slain. In other words, it was a smoky day in London when Casper came for our kids. Remember that smoky hand on the White Album that came out from behind Paul McCartney? It was a smoky day in London when Casper came for our kids. I was the shadow of the wax-winged slain. The waxwing, the story of the bird, right? I Am Not the Walrus was a butcher baby cover story for the AIDS attack. So they have done nothing but lie and cover it up, claiming that it's the triumph of the will of Lenin. That it be just like starting over. And all of this self-absorbed gloating that comes from a cosmetic mutilationist in the White House, that who want to see me dismembered piece by piece. A cosmetic mutilation. I got your face. I poisoned you in the mouth. I made you deaf. Like you're a white voodoo doll he can stick with pants while he sets off bombs with Ringo Starr, right? And this is supposed to catheterize the demons. All traces back to this idea in the City of Champions, Pittsburgh, that there's a food fight called Two Virgins. Now, Colucci, who was snatching purses and con men, he was sort of the namesake of the pedophile group who were stealing cars and kidnapped me and tortured me, gassed me in King's Estate, like the whole story that they put up as streetwise men toppling the cheater. That's what they now say it means. Had a father who lived with a very obese woman, but he had in his closet all of these 45s he never sold. He sang. He was going to be a singer, and he decided, he told me I met the wife and put them away. In the Oswald edition, Diary edition of Life, there's a half-size image of a woman advertising a 45 holding a red balloon. That symbolizes the virginity. Notice on the cover of Jacqueline O. Kennedy's first publication anywhere, right? And it's the Lord of the Ringwood. It's in the script. Only two people would know, and one of them is Ringwood, like Northwood. Ringo and his little Ringo's in there. Ringo's Northwoods is what this is. And what they did was, he says he's the Lord of the Ringmaster, right? The Lord of the Church. And he got this notorious woman into the limousine to do the honors for the White Russian aristocracy working with the royalist community and bumping off JFK. You can see the thing in her hand in close-ups. I mean, it's not like I'm making that up, So, and every person who's ever struggled with the death of a loved one has been deceived and their emotions put to, Maduro Goto didn't have the class to say what was going on when they claimed they discovered these letters. With John Schulman, by the way, who was arrested for stealing books from Carnegie Library, Penis Gabriel. They didn't have the class. They went around saying, oh, it's an inside joke. And a land stake for Texas queers, as opposed to anybody else. She appeared on the cover of Texas Queers, as opposed to anybody else who might be at risk. They did nothing to try to advise anybody who might be at risk, because there's already too many people. So they come in with charity jackers, right? They're going to get the goods and help the all poors, right? Like that's really what they had in mind, is to help the all poors. So what they have online is a panoptic and peep show. They can see into everybody's homes now with the cameras without your knowledge or consent. They can watch what you watch. They have a Microsoft panoptic peep show from the Machiavellian to places like Carnegie Mellon University. So, um, you know, they 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 call it street wisdom to establish martial law through a panoptic and peep show, and they're using poisons. You know, they poisoned so many people. It's unbelievable, and they did it openly. And the only interest the police have in any of this is, you know, how to help the charity jackets. You know, let the low lives settle it among themselves. They're scum, I guess, is the way the police see it. So, what you have is, you know, a situation that emerged from Hollywood, where Hollywood's best put their minds to it. You know, Joe Kennedy had an affair with a woman from Hollywood, and he supposedly wronged her, so Hollywood has a vendetta. Joan Crawford was in Dallas with Richard Nixon that day.